Hey guys, welcome back to the Street Photography Podcast. So it is Father's Day, and you'll probably hear my devices going off and everything and so forth. So I apologize for that. Just going back with friends and family, wishing them a happy Father's Day. And I'm going to wish all you fathers out there as well a happy Father's Day, and all you mothers out there who are fathers a happy Father's Day. So you'll probably hear a little difference in the audio. We've been doing some renovations in the home office. I got a nice new floor here, no carpet, so we'll have to work on the soundproofing and the echoing here. So I apologize for the echo you guys will hear in the audio for those that are listening to this on Spotify and Apple. And for the video, you'll see me pointing to the floor saying, hey, it's a new floor. So again, I apologize for the audio, but welcome to the podcast. And as I said earlier in the first few episodes, the podcast will be talking about everything in and around street photography, from gear to what's trending, to Q&A I may get for you guys, or Q&A I may have for you guys, to who you repping as far as a street photography artist that you are repping, the city they're from, and what is it about, the style that you guys like, or who I'm repping, and what it is about that artist's style that I like, and how I may incorporate some of that style into my own style of street photography, and improve on my skill set and fine tune my style, if you will. So that is the Street Photography Podcast. Thank you for all of you who are listening, who are enjoying this. Again, make sure you hit the my IG for questions and comments. I'm at Warren C on Instagram. I also have a YouTube channel that the podcast is also being featured on. It's Warren C on YouTube. So if you want to hit that as well and ask some questions that you'd like me to go over and ask the community and see what type of answers we get. Because, the whole thing about this is just, me to have fun with doing something and discussing topics around street photography with the community. So with that, as I look at my roster of information to go over today, the first thing I wanted to go over as we dive into this is this episode's trending topic. So one of the things that I've seen, and all of us have seen actually, we'll even say the past year or two, is the discussion on whether folks want to go JPEG or whether they want to go RAW and edit those images later. You have people on both sides of the camp. You have people who literally don't care for JPEG and would rather just shoot that RAW image and then take it back in post. You have editing software like Capture One that'll actually let the image come in, raw image come in, as you set up the profile in your camera. So if it's in black and white, it'll let it come over in black and white and not automatically put it into color and give you the full data file like, say, Lightroom does. You have a number of ways out there, depending on your style of photography, to edit and do what you want. But even I, over time, have noticed that I'm really enjoying Fuji's color so much that I've decided, at least for my street photography work, I'm doing more JPEG type of postings where I've dialed in that formula, if you will, that simulation for the film and for how I want my profile to be, my colors and so forth, my curves. Because with cameras like the X100 6 and the X105 and everything that's on the new generation processors and the previous year generation processor, we're really talking your XT4s and up, T50 that just got released. A lot of these cameras allow you to do edits on curves and highlights and so forth. You got cameras like the Nikon that do the same thing now with the Nikon Z-F. You can do color profiles and so forth and download them from websites and bring them into your camera along with the color profiles that are already there and be able to shoot JPEG. And because of that, JPEG is trending, in my opinion, a lot more than RAW for street photography, especially because of the folks that are taking those shots are immediately uploading them to social media. And there's no need to go back and post-process. You can share with your community pretty much almost immediately. The apps that a lot of the camera manufacturers are using now are good enough at this point where they connect to your camera from your smartphone, and will allow you to share that information, bring that image into your camera, put it in your the app that you're using. So like if I was using the Fuji app, it will download those photos and put them right into my Photos app, and then I can go right to my social media apps and pull from my Photos app and upload them. And JPEG makes that super easy. So social media aspect, I think, is driving it the most for sure, where I see folks utilizing the JPEG features and really going in on the film simulations, profile setups, and so forth. So with the Lumix S9 coming out, allowing folks to do LUTs, to me it's the same as Fuji's film simulations. It's the same as the one website, and I'll put it somewhere in the comments of that website, that'll allow you to set up profiles or player profiles people have worked with for the Nikon cameras. So that tells me that yeah, why not shoot JPEG? Yeah, why not be like everybody else, dial it in? We've always heard the term get it in camera, get it right in camera, excuse me, so that you have less editing time in post. Well, when it comes to street photography, especially when it comes to social media, JPEGs definitely do that now. With how far we've come, what we can do in camera and get the image, if not exactly the way we want or so close to the way we want, we may not even care to do any post-processing and post that image. So the other thing I want to say too that I think is helping as I look at my information here is the fact that the sensors have gotten better, but megapixels help. When I have more detail on that JPEG than I've had, say 10 years ago, that gives me an image that's closer to what I would want it to be in post-processing, adding sharpness to it and so forth, or what I would get for RAW. We're getting JPEG images on some cameras that are the size of what we got for RAW images a decade ago, maybe 5 years ago. I won't even go as far as say a decade. 5 years ago, if you got a Nikon Z8 or Z9, I believe a cropped censored image or drops it to 20 megapixels. JPEGs of sizes have gotten bigger as well because of the bigger megapixels. Same thing with the Fuji cameras. I'm shooting a 40 megapixel sensor, and when I get that JPEG, I got so much more detail in that JPEG because it's bigger. That again, why not just use the JPEG? Now for paid opportunities, I'm going to definitely use my raw images, edit them to my style that I use for my sorry about that, everybody's hitting me up again. It is Father's Day, and I wanted to do this for Father's Day because I'm having some fun. This is my little Father's Day treat. But everybody is using JPEGs to do what they need to do because again, that the megapixels that you're getting, in the cameras these days are making for bigger, more detailed JPEGs. So why not use it? So there you go. I feel the trend is real, and that's why I feel the trend is real. What do you guys think? Are you using JPEGs more if you had those cameras with the bigger megapixels? Is it because the apps that are on the manufacturers have made it easier to bring in the style that you want, playing around with the image profiles and getting the image almost exactly the way you want in camera, allowing you to go ahead and use that JPEG more, definitely for social media. And in some cases, I'll even ask the question, are some of you folks using it for your professional paid work as well? Again, get it right in camera has been a big phrase, work ethic thing to shoot for since I've been in photography, since before I've been in photography. And what cameras can do now allow you to get to that a lot more than it did before and hone in that image and camera to where you have less editing. What do you guys think? Trending or not? So with that, we're going to go to what again I've said, and I'm going to probably say this for a while, is my favorite part of the podcast, which is who you repping. So this week, or this podcast episode, if you will, Gary Winograd. I can honestly say Mr. Winograd, who hails from, let's see, let me get my notes right because I always get this wrong. But Mr. Winograd is from New York City. And, you know, I grew up in New York City. I didn't get into photography till I was in Michigan decades later, and really never paid attention to the street photographers back when I was living in the city. I was big on the architecture and things like that, but photography wasn't my thing. And now I've been doing photography and I've gone back home to visit very sparingly, unfortunately. I would love to go back home and be able to shoot in the style of some of the greats out of New York, and one of them for me is Mr. Gary Winograd. So Gary Winograd, and I'll read this so you guys have it and I don't mess this up, but Gary Winograd was an American street photographer known for his portrayal of U.S. life, its social issues in the mid-20th century. Photography curator, historian, and critic John Sarkowski, if I'm saying that, Sarkowski, there you go, called Winograd the central photographer of his generation. He mastered the skill of capturing chance observations. If you look at any of his work, you see it. I honestly can say I've been influenced a lot by Gary Winograd's style of photography. And when I went out to start doing street photography, I literally look for that. I look for chance observations, stuff that you wouldn't think happened on the street if there wasn't a picture to show that it actually happened in the street. You might not even think the picture is real, that maybe the picture is fake, right? That's the type of street photography I go after now. And when I came across Gary Winograd and his work, I was blown away. The amount of images he was able to capture that were basically chance observations, chance happenings, was astounding. His style of photography is what I literally shoot for. He used black and white. He did a book of color. One of his books that I enjoy the most is the Winograd color book. Now I got to be honest, guys, I have not gotten a Winograd book yet, only because when I first wanted to get one and I saw the price and where I was at that time, it was just a little too much money for me to spend to get the hard cover. But as time has gone on and prices have changed, I will say I do have the Winograd color book on its way. Another book of his that I was able to get loaned from a friend was the Street Philosophy of Gary Winograd. I really enjoyed that book and his use of capturing life and capturing chance observations that he did in that book using color. His use of color was great. Bold colors. He seemed to really want to capture some good contrast in his color, in his images. That really made the subject stand out. So you really saw what was going on with the scene and what the subject and what they were doing. I enjoyed it a lot. As I looked through my information here, another book of his that I would love to get, but it's a little too pricey still for me right now, which is The Man in the Crowd, The Uneasy Streets of Gary Winograd. Wonderful black and white images captured in this book, again, of life on the street, and a lot of happenstance type of image captures. He did also a book on women where he has just images of him capturing women as well in the street doing their thing, from juxtaposition to shadow play and so forth. Again, everything about the style of photography of Gary Winograd is just, it got me. I mean, I love this man's work. And I'm actually really embarrassed that I don't have a book yet from him, but I have seen a lot of his works. I've borrowed books from my friends that have his books, and even had to fight with them to hold on to them longer so that I can really soak in this man's work. I would have loved to have been able to meet him when he was alive, or even if he was alive today, just to be able to just, again, be part of his workshops if he has any, and learn from him. Just get information about his shooting style and the things he thought about and looked for, his triggers, if you will, for the type of photography he has. Because when you're trying to shoot stuff that's a chance observation, you kind of almost have to have like your psychic Jedi mind trick type of skills going. and know that a scene is about to come to fruition, and have your camera ready. You really got to know your gear. You got to know how to use your camera by memory, muscle memory. Have your settings right, so when that instant happens, you could take the picture. And these guys did this with film. You know, digital is a lot easier because you could just press the button. That's all you have to be ready for. Your settings are set, just press the button, and you can get it going. With film, it's a little bit more work involved. You know, you got to really understand how your lighting's going. There's not a whole lot more you can do in post than you can with a digital camera. So Gary Winograd is who I'm repping for this episode. And I shoot now in his style, so me going out and shooting in his style is non-consequential. You won't see a video for that. But I highly recommend you guys check out some of his books. Check out his style. See if it's something that you can incorporate into your style of street photography. Or if you're incorporated it, let me know what you guys think about Gary Winograd and the images he captured. That, again, chance observation stuff you just didn't think would have happened in the street, and may still don't think happened in the street because it's on an image. So yeah, Mr. Winograd, Rep'n New York, Bronx, New York. You know, I of course wasn't born in New York, but I was raised and grew up in New York, and I was raised in Harlem, Spanish Harlem. But happy to represent Mr. Winograd for this episode. So when we get into the next section, I'm gonna really challenge you guys to put on your thinking cap, your out of the box cap, because when it comes to the gear section, I'll again like to talk about gear in and around street photography, pros and cons about the gear, or pros and cons about whether the gear should be used for street photography, and so forth and so forth. So the gear section is really kind of a growing section on what we'll discuss, but it will be around gear, and it'll be around gear as it relates to street photography. So with this episode, I wanted to kind of get you guys thinking about adapting lenses. I did release a video on the YouTube channel earlier this week about adapting a Summicron f2 35 to my X Pro 3. Shot an image of it up. Actually, you know, I actually have that here with me. So for you guys who are going to be watching the video on YouTube and on, I believe Spotify does the video too, but I have it in the bag with me right now. And there it is, right there. And I gotta admit, it does look pretty sexy with the Summicron sitting on the X Pro 3. You know, it oozes sexiness, old style film camera, you know, rangefinder loveliness. And I challenged myself to, for the rest of this month, to shoot with this combo and get used to shooting adaptive lenses. Well, why would I care about that in street photography? It's to continue to work on my style, honestly. Getting yourself in a situation where you provide limitations helps you to understand what you're and focus more too on what you're doing to work around those limitations and get the images and content that you want to create, right? And that's what this does. This is not an auto-focusing lens. I have it on the Fujifilm adapter, and the adapter has electronics in it, so it's kind of a smart adapter, but it only allows the camera to let me put a profile in there easier. And if I decided to use the OVF on this camera, to brighten the frame lines, and it lets the camera know there's a 35mm equivalent type lens on here as far as it doing any type of adjustments to the image, right? For the lens that cameras will do when it's an autofocusing lens. So other than that though, I'm gonna have to use other features of this camera to be able to create my street photography. It's gonna slow me down. It's gonna make me think more about the images. It's gonna make me think more about why I'm out there and what type of images I'm trying to catch, what style of street photography I'm trying to go after. But the benefit is, on top of that, is that it's going to allow me to hopefully use a different style of tool to create and fine tune my style of street photography. I took a couple of images on that video, and I think I got a good combination here. I had to use focus peaking on here to make sure the zone in which I want the images, or the subjects I should say, to be in focus is there. I use blue highlight focus peaking, so that stands out to me more. And I want this adapted lens on here so I can fine tune my style and create. Do you feel the same thing? Do you feel that folks adapt for that, or do you feel that they're adapting because they just want to, stave back the boredom? That sometimes can happen. Maybe they're in a creative stump. Maybe they just don't know what they want to do. So it's nice to be able to do something like adapting the lens, I should say, to your camera, to help get you out of a creative stump, to help you continue to fine tune your style using limitations of an adaptive lens, manual lens on a camera that has autofocusing capabilities. It did wonders for when I went out. I literally said, okay, Warren, you're out here to do street photography, but what style? There are a few different styles of street photography. Well, I'm just doing street photography, normal, unobtrusive street photography, where I'm just capturing what's on the street, whether it be people in it, whether it be architecture. I'm just doing whatever's in the street, I'm capturing, unobtrusive. I'm not gonna stop anybody for a photo or anything like that. So with that said, well, how am I gonna focus for this? Well, zone focus. Let's set this up to with the focus peaking, where I have everything from 5 feet to infinity in focus, or 5, and when I'm taking the images, I'll see what 5 feet looks like, because it'll be highlighted blue as I move around, and I'll be able to shoot, capture what's happening in front of me. Loved it. It's different than shooting with autofocus lenses. It's a little more challenging. And I loved it. And I had a wonderful little outing out when I went and did it. And I'm looking for a lot more of those as I shoot with this camera and set up for the rest of the month. So adapt your lenses. It will help you in figuring some things out about the style of shooting, get you out of some boredom, help you learn something possibly new about your style of shooting, and hopefully help you even get through an issue you've been having with your style of shooting. But with that, it also taught me about something else that I never really paid that much attention to when it comes to your gear. So one of the things I said earlier about this is the frame lines, the bright lines. Now, of course, with this particular camera, the bright lines on the OVF doesn't really matter. It didn't help me. It's the EVF that I wanted to make sure that I can see through, and because I will compose an image through my EVF, as well as I will use the LCD screen and also compose an image. Well, the LCD screen is a lot better than the EVF on this camera, so I saw the blue highlights better and so forth. The EVF, I made the mistake of not turning off auto brightness, and it was challenging to say the least using this manual lens on the camera. So I went ahead and turned that off, and it made me help me be able to see through the EVF a lot better and see the image a lot better for actually how it looked. But I did go back and forth between the LCD and the EVF like I normally do. But it got me thinking about something I didn't really think about. Again, going back to what's trending, right? And JPEG. I didn't think about the rules, the different rules that we have when it comes to composing an image and using frame lines and so forth. It pushed me to start thinking about the rules of composition, because it slowed me down with the limitation that this adapted lens provided. I thought about the rule of thirds. I had the grid. I wanted putting the grid on my LCD screen so I can actually see the rule of thirds and be able to position the subject, off center, right? It also had me thinking about the golden rule, the spiral placement. I'm not going to try to depict it, but it basically starting from the subject and it spirals out, and supposedly as you go through the spiral, it ties in the subject with the foreground and the background and give you a better composition with the subject in the start of that spiral. Then I thought about my frame lines itself, and or not frame lines, but fill in the frame. You know, you hear that a lot too. Fill the frame with the subject. I thought about that. Is this an image where I should fill the frame with the subject, or is this an image where I might want to have a more balance between the subject and the foreground? Layers. It had me thinking about layers. You know, where is the subject in this image? Do I want some layers in front only, or do I want layers in the back? Do I want layers throughout? Balancing that image. Leading lines. If the subject was something where it was like, say, a lady walking across the street, and the street was blocked off, and it had the barrier up, the barrier, you know, I was about to say flags, but stands where it stops cars from coming. If I did the image right, filled the frame enough with that subject, the lady, and then use the barriers, because, you know, it's the three brackets, if you will. I'll call them brackets, that are different colors, yellow, white, or green, white, something to let cars know, hey. They can act as leading lines to my subject. If I balance the image properly, fill in the frame, using leading lines, checking out my rule of thirds, and then working with my layers, all of that started to come into play because I limited myself using an adapted lens. I looked at the relationship between the element or subject and everything around it to compose my composition. Fantastic. So you guys, let me know when it comes to your gear and you do something different to provide yourself a limitation like an adapted lens, how does that help you in improving your shot, improving your composition, improving your knowledge around the use of your camera, improving your use of that adapted lens itself, and your knowledge around that focal length and what it provides you? Zooming, maybe you zoom with your feet more, where before with an autofocusing lens, you may not have to zoom with your feet as much. So I'll say it again. When it comes to gear, it's not always about the gear itself, but what you can do with the gear. Then it's also about what the gear forces you to do and being able to capture the content you want to capture. And I had a blast with this adapted lens. So let me know what you guys think about adapted lenses. Let me know, again, what did it do for you? What did it force you to do? What did it make you do in being able to utilize that adapted lens to capture your content? So when it comes to the Q&A section, again, I generally use the Q&A section again to answer questions that come to me from the community, as well as questions I pose to the community. And today, we have a really good question from the community. This one comes from a person who reached out to me on Instagram, and I'll put his Instagram up in the comments so you guys see who it is, and if you want to follow him. He actually does photography with X-ray film on a 4x5 camera he built. And when I say he built, he got an old one that was damaged, put it back together, built some lenses for it, and he shoots X-ray film. And that's Jason Klutz. I hope I'm saying it right. Jason Klutz Photography. So I'll put his IG up, but it's instagram.com/Jason Klutz, KLUTTZ Photography. And his question is, what is your personal methodology for approaching a new scene you have not visited before? And then he has a second part of the question where he's asking, what is your favorite time of day to hit a new location? So we'll start with the first part of the question. So my methodology is I will do all the research I can with my fingers. And it makes sense, right? Remember back in the day, you used to have the commercial, the telephone commercial, let your fingers, yellow book, right? Let your fingers do the walking. And I do that. I let my fingers do the walking with the internet. I will look up, say, for instance, I'm in a new city. Let's say I'm going to a new city, like I did recently with Toledo. I will go into my computer, go to the internet, look up what's going on in Toledo, in and around Toledo, events, so forth, tourist places that people like to go. I'll look around my hotel on the map to see what's around the hotel, what it looks like. I'll change the map view from 2D and 3D to satellite and hybrid so it can show me the actual area via the satellite hybrid views and see what it looks like in that area. I will see if there's any parks around it, and I will use Google Maps to go around visually and see it. Guys, technology is our tool to use. And people should look at technology that way. It's a tool, and we should use it properly. And we have a lot of internet-based tools that'll help you do a lot of research before you get to a place. So I will absolutely do that. The next thing I'll do is, if I have folks I know, whether that be personal, or business related, that are in the area or have been to the area, I will ask them about the area. What are nice places to go to? Where do people go to eat? Because most of my street photography generally has people in it. So I would like to go to the places that people go to capture the subject I capture the most. So I'm definitely going to ask where people go to eat, not just for the food, but for me to also have subjects to go after. So that's the second thing I'll do. I'll ask friends and coworkers and people I know if they've been to the area I'm going to, and places that they like, places they didn't like. Did they go out and do any type of touring around, and what did they see, and what places they recommend, and eat food-wise and everything. I did that with my sister when I went to Baltimore, and she told me about some places in Baltimore to go to. The third thing I will do is, once I get there, if I'm at a hotel, let's say not a friend's house, I will go over to the maitre d' if they have one, or go over to the desk they have for information and get some information as well, just to back up what I've been able to research online and research with friends and family to see what's happening that weekend. Because when I went to Toledo, there was a race, there was a walk, there was a number of things happening. There was a basketball game, a hockey game, not basketball, hockey game. The lower league hockey team made it to the finals. There are a lot of people on the streets. The streets were blocked off, and I didn't know this until I actually got there. So once I get to a place, I will continue to do my research by reaching out to the maitre d' of the hotel or checking out the area where the information is, so I can gain that knowledge of what's happening and give myself plenty of opportunities to go out and get the content I like to go after when I'm on the streets. So hopefully that answers the first question. Now the second question, time of day, again, it really depends on what I'm shooting. So if I'm not doing street photography, I know this podcast is about street photography, I will shoot based on what I'm going to go do, But since this is, and that means if I'm shooting outdoors, as say a zoo, I'm going to go when the animals are active, whenever that is. And I'll find out by reaching out to the zoo's website and seeing when, hopefully they have that, when animals are most active, and I'll go. I use that same methodology when I'm going out to do street photography. I will go when I know folks would be out and be the most active. Generally that's early, not around high noon, but sometimes it is. It depends on what events are happening. And then I will usually go just after high noon, be out there doing golden hour into blue hour, depending on what I'm trying to do with capturing images from after high noon into golden hour, blue hour, low light photography, and so forth. So most of my street photography will generally be after high noon, because folks, especially in the summertime, will like to come out as it's starting to cool off. So that's the other part. So it really comes down to, what am I going to go shoot, where, what the weather's like, what the season's like, because when it's colder, people come out during high noon because it's the warmest. So those factors come into play. I will check the weather, see what season I'm in, of course, and what events are going on around me, and when they're happening time-wise. Because sometimes that's really what it always comes down to, is if I'm going to an area that I know that people are generally going to be around during this time, because I do a lot of people photography, for my street photography, then I'm gonna be there during that time. It may be high noon, it may be midday, it may be early in the morning. It really depends on when the subject that I'm trying to go after is gonna be there. So hopefully that answers that second part for you, Jason. I appreciate you posting the question on the IG for us to bring on the podcast. And guys, feel free to do the same thing. So we're gonna go ahead and end today's cast with that. Get out there and shoot. You guys, if you follow me on my YouTube channel, you've heard me say that a number of times, because doing that will get you what you want to go after, which is the knowledge around your camera, the increased skill set in your photography, and the increased fine-tuning of your shooting style. See you guys on the next cast, and happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there.